it seems like you're working towards a metaverse of your own, which in one sense you could say all artists are or should be doing. But in your case, you're involved with making your thoughts and observations literal, or giving them a sense of image, a sense of shape. You're not conducting a theater in the oceans of abundance paintings and images. You're not creating a theater, but you have created a stage where everything from dream projection to cinematic fantasy like Star Wars can take place without any sort of visual dissonance. Or I should say, contextual dissonance, because you want visual dissonance. You want there to be a kick to the image. And the kick comes in the surprise that happens between those images that are just blue and white and those images that contain red and yellow. Those images with those colors in them, are they turning from oceans to fields of flowers? Perhaps. That's one dream. But what you're saying is that that may be the metaphor, but it's the dream that counts. That you're not preventing people from taking what you do, reading what you do literally, but you're saying to them, there's more than what you see. What's that Zen slogan? Things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem, nor are they otherwise.
Right.
But there's an easier way to say it. Things are also as they seem. And in that case, I think that you're at that point where you're trying to bring together the visually seen and the metaphorically seen, the visual understanding and the metaphoric understanding, and the fantasy, the sense of the fantastic that abides all the way around. I think it's too easy to call it surrealism. Surrealism as a visual language or conceptual language is universal now. Yeah. We don't have to be convinced of it. But what do we do with it? Artists no longer have to show us what surrealism is. They have to show us what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And I think you're doing that consciously. So you're not indulging yourself, nor should you, nor can you. You have to speak to the audience. Indulge them a little. That slight indulgence allows them in, and they ultimately complete the work of art, like Duchamp said. But you started the work of art. You're your first audience.
Right.
Don't try to put everything in. Try to make sense of what's in there.
Yeah. Well, that's so true.
Is there any influence of religion or spirituality in your work, specific religious beliefs or spiritual sensations?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was born in a fairly religious household, and it was predominantly a Hindu household. So I tell people this. I was like, well, listen, I grew up in a household where I women had, goddesses had 8 arms, avatars were blue, and we worshipped a monkey god. So when it comes to visual identity, I don't really have much on the, there's not everything's up for grabs kind of
Right.
thing we've conceived. But for my own sense, uh, I've developed a pretty natural yoga practice. So I do believe in this one. My central thesis, I would say, is I paint to I paint to explore the power of hands, the shadows of the ego, and the beauty of the mind in order to reveal a universal soul. And for me, that allows this idea of the hands, while they may not be now as evident figuratively as representational, they do represent that action and karma, like that which we can bring to the work. The shadows of the ego has always fascinated me. It used to be destruction of the ego, but I've realized in life that you need ego, and
Yeah.
you need it to fuel and to. Ego is really important because it helps you bring attention to things where you want to emanate more light, and there's something that's saying holding you back. And
Right.
so I never thought of that as a real tool. And
It's
then I think the beauty of the mind. I'm just grateful that I get to express what's somewhat in my mind.
how much of it do you think is expression, and how much of it is investigation?
I would say a large portion is investigation. I often say this is that at least since for many, well, I would put it this way: up until 2020, 2013, I had kind of an out of body religious experience. I had a dream where I witnessed the birth of Lord Vishnu, and that was probably the most egoless moment of my life. And then I didn't sleep for about 60 hours trying to explain it to people, and I ended up in a psychiatric ward. I was diagnosed with bipolar. I've been managing that for 12, 13 years. So I would say all the art from when I was young up until that moment was about expression. And I can look at those works, and I value them differently because I was trying to express something hidden in me, and I just wanted to be known. I honestly just wanted to be known by the world, or have someone see me and see a portion of me that I couldn't express verbally. After that moment, I actually felt like I owed it to I was trying to, I wouldn't say teach, I wouldn't say uh, invoke, but there was a more conscious effort with the audience. Like I was physically creating a work to invoke some sort of relationship with an audience. Like I no longer needed my ego satisfied in a way that I needed, like I was like a child, or like something petulant where you kind of needed to be quelled or attentive to. It's like I can take an ownership of that or take some stance. So I use that distinct midpoint in my, or not even midpoint, just life of like, there was a view of expression, and then there was a view of investigation and what I can bring and share.
That's remarkable to have that kind of inflection point in your life and your career.
I mean, I think it was probably, they always say there's like the day, there's like you have two important days as a person. It's like the day you were born, and then the day you find out why. And I can now articulate that my purpose, my raison d'etre, the reason I'm on this earth is to uplift truth through art and help people.
And how effective do you think yourself at at doing those things at this point?
Right now, I look at it like sphere of influence. So, I'm stepping out of kind of hopefully emerging to the next. I want to get to that next level in terms of just the art scene, as well as just a larger audience. But I think anybody who's known me, who's had an interaction with me, says this kid is creative. This kid has a point of view, and he does what he wants. He expresses and he creates art, and that may be inspiring on a micro basis right now, or smaller interactions right now, much like a teacher in a classroom. Like you have your thing, but I envision a larger platform building.
Yeah. It's not easy to be an artist with a message, but it doesn't sound like you could be anything else.
Or one can argue, without the message, it's hard to be an artist.
Well, if you define message liberally, some artists would say that exploration of color values all by itself is a message, or doing so is a message. Paying homage to the square like Albers did for the rest of his life was a message. So yes, in that case, in that context, all art has a message, and we can judge artists as good or not so good by the effectiveness with which they communicate that message. But and the question is, how does the artist get to that message? How does he or she understand its content and formulate its presentation, its form? But then it becomes, again, a dialogue between the artist and the audience, and the triangulation, the artist, audience, and the artwork. But clarity of imagery is finally what the technical thing to keep in mind. It's even in the dream you had of Vishnu, the clarity of image. The saying is, God is in the details.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they sure are.
Yeah.
And you have many gods, so you can assign each one a detail. Or they're probably already assigned that.
I definitely pray to all of them for help. And I've got them working overtime. I think if I get to the next, when I transition over, I think if they'd be like, listen, you were a lot of work down there.
Are we done yet?
Really? You want to go to the next one? You want to go to the next universe? God, we don't have enough PR team for you.
You're right. Exactly. Those last 10 years were kind of hairy. We're going to have to recycle you as...
Actually, so this is speaking of like past, or at least this is that in that week leading up to that dream with Lord Vishnu, when my mom was pregnant with me, she had a dream that my grandfather visited her. He had died in 1960. I was born in 1981, and my grandmother thought that that's a sign that I'm my grandfather's reincarnation. And then was leaving my corporate job at the time, and I was going to work on that strip of life art full time. I was going to see if I can get that off the ground. And he was in Germany at the time, or like in the 30s, he was working on on an engineering project and brought that back to India, and he set up his own factory. So I started channeling that energy, and he was attracted to this angel number 555, and he used to smoke a 555 cigar. And that week, I just got more and more interested in his story, and I was like, I just felt a very strong connection. I was like, finally, I feel like somebody in the family I can relate to who's like adventurous and like, taking like risks and like making their own business or taking something off the ground. And then I kind of asked, and I was like, am I his reincarnation? And that was where the dream happened.
So you were already focused on thoughts of your grandfather. There was a familial context to the dream.
Yeah, there was like living somebody. It was like a parallel. You're like living someone. You're reliving something in a deja vu feel. That was the first time I'd ever felt that. So now it becomes an interesting thing if you ever like have awakening like that, and now it's like I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. This is why I was chosen to come to this particular family and this particular set of parents. And then I was like, was my grandma? So like when my grandmother was alive, it was like, are you my wife from another life? And I'm like, were you my son in this past life, and I'm your son in this life? And like, this is why we have such a complicated relationship. So human relationships are.
Well, do reincarnations tend to stay that close into individual families?
Yeah, they do.
I'd wondered about that.
They do. I mean, from what I've been read about it, I wrote a book on. When I was right out of college, I got a book deal, and one of the subjects was like this yoga reincarnation love story, and it tends to be that all those what they call samskars, like your desires. Every time we have an interaction, you have like a samskar, some infinitesimally small desire or attachment impression is what it translates to, and that carries on with you on your soul's journey from lifetime to lifetime.
That's attachment.
Yeah, that's what they call that. It's some scars of the impression, and then some scars form inclinations. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt like, I mean, you've obviously been in the art world for so long, and your eye has been trained so deeply. But if there's ever been a certain type of art or a certain particular color or a particular something that you gravitate towards without really understanding why, sometimes it could come from that some scar impression that you have. And that leads to tendencies lead to habits lead to character leads to then persona, and then persona then leads on to your actions, and then you carry that forward
Into a new avatar.
Yeah.